Hey, it's Zoo. I'm just outside of the village in Staroi. It's been a couple weeks now since the gas bomb killed off most of the remaining bandits and some of the good guys. I have no idea who is still alive. At this point, every memory I have is a memorial to the dead. And that's what it's become. A memory. I'd like to share with you some of those memories. They aren't all good, but what is? But to be able to appreciate this story, I'll have to go back a bit, even before my time. The village was pioneered by two men, George and John. They laid the first gate at the foot of the ancient elder tree, and that gate would eventually become a magnificent walled village with a garrison, doctors, hunters and trappers, a trader, and of course, no shortage of bandits fixed on chaos and destruction. We endured bombings, poison gas, gunfights, raids. We even had our own garrisons turn on us and make quick work of unarmed civilians. Even once order was established and the gate was well guarded, there was senseless death after senseless death. At this point, the village is abandoned, at least for the time. The stench of rotting corpses can be smelled a mile away, which is also drawing in predators. At least the pumpkins are still growing. I'll eat this one later. Back to our story. Once the walls went up around the village, it was the best place most of us have seen since the apocalypse began. People without hope or vision for their future took a role and made something of themselves. Folks who have only been betrayed and abandoned found friendship and loyalty. Those were the golden days for sure, but we should have known it wouldn't last. Walls are only as secure as the gates that allow passage, and the bandits knew how to turn a solid wooden wall into a gate they could use to enter the village from the shadows. While guards monitored the main gate, evil was creeping in from behind where nobody was looking. Day after day, wave after wave of looters and murderers found their way inside, silently sniping guards with crossbows or using explosives and campfires to murder a half dozen people at once.
Somebody fucking blew up a grenade.
I know this story isn't sounding too great, but it wasn't all bad. We had a lot of good times, a lot of laughs, and some great people to spend the long days with, and so much cooperation. The day I arrived, it was a little chaotic at first, right in the middle of a gunfight, but once things calmed down and I got to take a look around, I was amazed. I mean, I've never seen so much stuff in my entire life. There was a barn with more storage than any hardware store, an armory with insane amounts of guns and magazines, a medic tent loaded with antibiotics and bandages. It was like a strip mall, but it wasn't a mall at all. It was just a village, dubbed Freshchester by its founders. I got checked out by a doctor to make sure I wasn't going to spread any diseases, and then I found a tower to stand on. It seemed like a good job for me. Little did I know then that I would spend most of my days on those towers in a futile attempt to keep the people safe. I hadn't yet realized that the bandits used the back door, and even when I did know, there was nothing I could do to stop it. Another problem we faced was crossbows. Nobody else seemed to have a problem with them, But unless you watch one of your brothers in arms suddenly fall down dead from a bolt in the face, you probably can't appreciate how big of a problem they were. I could bitch and moan, even confiscate them myself, but in the end, that only made me a target. Can't even remember how many times I was knocked unconscious from a bolt, a grenade, or a gunshot to my vest or helmet. It's a miracle I even survived. Fact is, if we didn't have good people dedicating their blood, sweat, and tears into making the village a better place, we would have all died a lot sooner. As the days went on, people would loot nearby towns for supplies, sometimes even finding trucks to haul logs or other goods. In spite of constant waves of resistance, we strived. Eventually, with all the deaths from raids and attacks, it seemed like the bandits had more numbers than our own garrison. It was only a matter of time before the next wave would be the last. And that day came mere weeks ago. I had just arrived back from a supply run, and when I got back, there was body after body strewn around on the ground inside the village walls. I saw one person who I thought was Garrison, who asked me for a blood bag, and only moments later, that same guy would send me into a coma. It took days to recover enough to drag myself to the outskirts, with only the sound of flies, corpses gassing off, to remind me that behind those walls once lived an entire community of people who survived the apocalypse. It turned out no rules, no armbands or bag searches, no amount of organization would stop the inevitable. The village succumbed to a violent entropy, and it's unlikely we'll ever get it back.